I know that as part of the Spanx Training Bootcamp, one of the mandatory learning modules is comedy that every employee has to go through. So why is that important?
I didn't understand why everybody was so serious. So I thought, you know what? I don't subscribe to the fact that you have to act serious to be taken seriously. And I like to laugh at myself. When I worked in corporate America for a long time, and everybody was super uptight and super serious, and there was no humor and there was no levity, and then everybody at like 5 o'clock became ragingly hilarious. I was like, what's going on? And so the alcohol probably helped at 5, but anyway, I wanted to use humor, and I love to do that in the workplace. And yes, we have a boot camp at Spanx, a training boot camp when you come on board. And one of the modules is doing stand-up comedy. And I've used the comedic stuff that I did in my marketing. I mean, I wrote, "Don't worry, we've got your butt covered," right on my package when I first started in 2000, which was not very common to do, especially taking it to the Neiman Marcus to sell it. I named my company Spanx, which was, made people laugh. And believe it or not, it was very shocking at the time that I named the company Spanx. I actually had people hang up on me often. I would call them and say, "Hi, I'm Sarah from Spanx," and then they'd hang up. And I'd call back and I'd go, "I'm serious, I'm a real company and my company's called Spanx." And they go, "Oh, I thought you were prank calling me." And then, naming my products, I broke into the world's most boring category. I mean, can we talk about shapewear? Who wants to talk about shapewear and undergarments? But I named it Power Panties. I started naming all my products, and it made people laugh, and it gave so much energy. And then all of a sudden you had Gwyneth Paltrow and Julia Roberts flashing their Spanx on red carpets and saying, "I'm wearing Spanx," like all these celebrities. And I think it's because I chose to do humor and people wanted to participate in that. There was energy around that. So I use it in every aspect of the marketing. I use humor to turn around a situation when I'm bombing it. It might give me a second chance. When I cold called to sell fax machines door to door for 7 years, I learned very quickly that if I could make somebody laugh or smile, I'd get another 30 seconds before they'd slam the door in my face. It helps you move through pain. It's a wonderful tool.
Any decision can be divided into what do I need to do versus how and when do I need to do it. For the what, that is intuition. And by intuition, I use the word energy. And the way to answer any question for yourself personally that you don't immediately know the answer to is to ask this question: does it energize and expand my life, or does it shrink it? If it energizes and expands your life, the answer is hell yes. You should absolutely do it. That is what you should do. If the decision shrinks you or it deflates you, then the answer is hell no, you should not do it. This is an incredible tool to use in deal making, by the way, because I'm in the middle of negotiating a massive media deal at the moment, and it's something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when you're negotiating for something you really want, whether it's somebody that you're dating or it's a salary or whatever, in my case it's a massive media deal, you can get really ego driven, right?
Right.
And you can start to get very attached to the deal or to the person or to the whatever. But you have to stop and ask yourself, is this deal or this person actually expanding and energizing me? Or are there aspects of it that deplete and shrink me? And if there's any aspect of it that depletes and shrinks, you either have to change that aspect of the deal or the relationship structure, or you have to say no. Period.
Right.
If you decide that, it energizes me and I really want to do it, then that's what you want. Next, you've got to think about the outcome, which is how and when you make it happen.
I came across the fact, so this is 1994, nobody has heard of the internet, very, very few people. And I came across the fact that the web, World Wide Web, was growing at something like 2,300% a year. This is in 1994, and anything growing that fast is, even if its baseline usage today is tiny, it's growing so fast, it's gonna be big. And so I looked at that and I was like, I should come up with a business idea and that get, on the internet, and then let the internet grow around this, and we can keep working on it. And so I made a list of products that I might sell online, and I started force ranking them. And I picked books because books is super unusual in one respect, which is that there are more book items in the book category than there are items in any other category. There are 3 million different books active and in print around the world at any given time. So the founding idea of Amazon was to build universal selection of books. The biggest bookstores only had 150,000 titles. And so that's what I did, and I hired a small team, and we built the software. I moved to Seattle.
And when you told your parents you were going to quit D.E. Shaw, where you're successful, making presumably a fair amount of money, and you told your wife, Mackenzie, that you're going to move across the country, what did they all say?
They were immediately and reflexively supportive right after they asked the question, what's the internet?
The biggest lesson I learned was, thank goodness I learned it pretty early on, which is, and I think a lot of business owners make this mistake, which is because I was the boss, in my own mind.
Yeah.
I thought I had to know all the answers, and if I didn't, I thought I had to pretend that I did, and that's stupid. And what I learned is that just because I may have the top position in the hierarchy, I'm not expected to know everything, and if I pretend to know everything, it diminishes the value of all the great ideas and the great intelligence around me. And when things got difficult, I would never admit it, right? I would just put on a brave face and show up every day. And the biggest lesson I learned was to say, I don't know, I don't understand, or I need help. At any level about any subject.
Yeah.
And amazingly, I was always surrounded by people who wanted to help or who knew answers, but they never offered to help or offer the answers because they didn't think I needed it, because I kept pretending that I knew it all.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that nobody likes a know-it-all. So that was huge for me. And when I was willing to ask for help and accept it when it was offered, and sort of accept the humility of the fact that other people know a lot more about a lot of things than I know. I know one thing, and they know lots of things. That's when things really started to move, because we were now a team. Like, we were actually working together.
I have paid attention to my life because I understand that my life, just like your life, is always speaking to you, where you are, in the language, with the people, with the circumstances and experiences that you can understand and interpret if you are willing to see that always life, God, is speaking to you. Now, it took me a while to actually really get this and to understand it, but once I did, I started paying attention to everything. And one of the reasons why I can now accept the fact that I can offer my gatherings of information and wisdom and call myself a spiritual teacher is that every single person who ever came on my show, and I hear there's like 37,000 guests I've talked to, a lot of them came from dysfunction, and a lot of them wouldn't appear to be teachers, but every one of them had something to say that was meaningful and valuable and that I could use to grow myself into the best of myself, which is what all of our jobs are. Your number one job is to become more of yourself and to grow yourself into the best of yourself.
People talk about, life, family, balance. I had none. I mean, I literally remember dating some girl, this is the truth, and it was like we'd been dating a couple years, and like, Mark, you're so into your work. I mean, I want a picket fence, I want a house, I want kids, it's me or your job. And I was like, or me or your company. And I was like, what's your name again? I'm like, if you don't know me well enough by now after dating 2 years to know that I'm driven on this, there was no balance.